An important conversation, one we cannot say we've never heard about, one we cannot say we've never seen, because especially in our country, it's everywhere. Every day, every minute, every second of our lives, we do hear or know somebody who has experienced GBV, which is your gender-based violence. It's not only a social crisis, but it's also an economic crisis. It affects women's ability to participate fully in education, employment, entrepreneurship, leadership, and wealth creation. Women live in fear when girls are denied bodily dignity, when violence limits mobility, confidence, or opportunity. Economic ownership becomes harder to achieve. This session will challenge us to examine the intersection between GBV, structural inequality, as well as economic exclusion. We'd like to call upon Ms. Luthando Madhlopa. Here she comes. Ms. Luthando Madhlopa to join us online. We have Ambassador Ruby Marks. I hope we're connecting online on Teams. Are we good to go? Good to go. Good afternoon, Ambassador Ruby, and welcome, Thando. I'm going to hand the stage over to you.
Thank you so much.
Everyone.
We're going to start with Ambassador Ruby.
The women capital and the architecture of ownership, I found myself pausing at one word, ownership. Because ownership sounds so unquestionably good. To own land, property, companies, capital, and to ultimately own your future. And of course, all of that matters. But I want to ask a more uncomfortable question today. What if ownership is not enough? What if ownership, as currently imagined, simply offers some women access into a system whose foundations remain untouched? What if we have confused entry with transformation? Gender-based violence is usually discussed as a criminal justice issue, a social issue, a moral issue. And often we think of gender-based violence only as physical. So here I refer to the structural violence of a patriarchal bargain between the market and women in the workforce. The structural violence of gendered access and control of resources maintained in the private and in the public space. And so we need a much broader definition of violence that recognizes the gender norms around which institutional life and work is organized to keep women excluded or to make space for only a few at the table. And so I want us to recognize that there is a continuum of different types of violence that stretches right from the bedroom to the battlefield, to the boardroom, to the factory floor. A broader definition of gender-based violence recognizes the full dimension that includes the economy and how the market produces and reproduces inequality. And so we cannot be surprised that the vast majority of women remain excluded. Gender-based violence and economic exclusion are not separate problems, but they are expressions of the same architecture that many speakers before me have referred to. Because violence is not only bruises. Violence can look like being prevented from working, having your salary controlled by a partner or a husband, carrying unpaid care work, being unable to leave a harmful relationship because there's nowhere financially safe to go, being economically exhausted into compliance, and how many of us cannot relate to that. And even when women enter the market, we discover something very unsettling. Participation is not power. Income is not. Ownership is not freedom. We are often told that economic liberation lies in ownership, that we should become entrepreneurs, access finance, build assets, join boards, buy property. And again, I support all of those things. But I want to ask, ownership under whose rules? because markets are often spoken about as if they are neutral. They are not. Markets reward certain forms of participation, certain forms of time, certain forms of mobility, certain forms of productivity. Historically, and still today, those rules were built around assumptions of whose labor counts, whose care is invisible, whose risk is acceptable, and whose ownership is legitimate. And women entered that game late, not because women lacked ambition, but because the rules were never designed with women at the center. Which brings me to a quote from Audre Lorde that continues to haunt us today. The master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. So let me ask a related question. Can ownership alone dismantle an economy designed around exclusion? Or does ownership merely allow a few women entry into rooms whose foundations remain unchanged? Or to lean in as neoliberal feminism asks us to do? And so let me take my single mother as an example. My mother worked and worked variously as a domestic worker, a factory worker, a tea lady, a cleaner. Yet ownership remained permanently beyond reach, not because she lacked ambition or discipline, but because surviving leaves very little room for accumulation. So when people say that women must simply enter the market, I wonder which women and enter on what terms? Because if the price of ownership is that women must work twice as hard, perform home care without recognition, conform to existing definitions of success, and leave structural inequalities untouched, then ownership becomes less liberation and more negotiation. And so to go back to my mother, when she passed on, she did not leave behind property, a share portfolio, or even unit trust. Instead, she left me a legacy that the market does not value: resilience, discipline, focus, determination. This is the starting block for so many Black women in this country. And so if we were to become the generational chain breakers within our families, then we must ask the deeper, uncomfortable question: did she fail the market? Or did the market fail to imagine her? Or did we fall? Or were we pushed? The skewed market that we have today represents a patriarchal bargain with small concessions for a few, while the majority remains outside the gate. And before anyone misunderstands me, I am not arguing against ownership. Women must own. We must own land. We must own businesses. We must own intellectual property. We must own wealth, material and non-material. But ownership cannot be the horizon of our imagination, because ownership asks who gets access, but transformation asks who designed the system. Ownership asks who gets a seat, but transformation asks who built the table. Ownership asks how do women succeed, but transformation asks why must success always look a particular way. Success doesn't have to be dressed in a business suit. Success can also be dressed in an overall and a doek. Let's be careful of developing hierarchies of success that excludes the many who define success within the context of their own lived experiences. So if we are serious about breaking structural barriers, we must move beyond merely individual advancement of the few. We must ask, what would an economy look like if care counted as infrastructure? If safety, the physical safety of women, was part of economic policy? If survival was not a market failure? If ownership was collective as well as individual? If dignity is not just extraction? If that becomes the measure of value, if women did not merely enter the economy, but redesign it. Because perhaps the goal is not simply more women owning pieces of the house. Perhaps the question is whether the house itself needs renovation or rebuilding. Thank you. I will now give over to my sister, Luthando.
Sanbanani, good afternoon. My name is Luthando Madhlopa, and I will continue from where Ambassador Ruby left off. Thank you, Ambassador. Good afternoon, colleagues, sisters, and matriarchs. To jump off from where Ambassador Ruby has left off, we must understand the difference between change and transformation. And if we're talking about South Africa being a house, then we must understand that the change is the renovation and the transformation is the rebuilding. And unfortunately, our house has parts that are leaking that don't only need renovation, but they actually need restructuring physically. And this is the hard work that we unfortunately all run away from. And I understand why we do, because it's exhausting and we're mostly unpaid for it. So when we speak about gender-based violence, we must be honest about what we're actually pursuing. Because GBV is not just a justice issue, as my co-lead has emphasized, but it is also an economic justice issue. And at the center of this economic justice issue is ownership. Many women remain in abusive environments, not because they do not recognize the violence, not because they don't want to leave, but merely because leaving is expensive. It's not affordable. For many women, leaving is not a door. It's a whole economic migration. That migration requires 24 months of planning, housing, transport, childcare, school fees, legal support, and food security. And in the kind of economy that we live in, not only in South Africa, on this continent and globally, I think we need to kind of think about how we expect women, in particular women of color, to raise those funds in a short space of time, because we are so quick to say, you must leave, hamba, but go where? Do we see any social development houses? Are there homes for women that are safe, that are equitable, that that children and women can actually have sustainable lives where they can survive? There are very, very few, and most of them are run by individuals who struggle on their own. With this question that we have here, we really need to answer for it, because when women gain ownership and not only access, violence loses one of its greatest enablers, which is dependency. We need to cure ourselves of this dependency. And we also then need to look at how are we fixing our house. Because, like I said, parts of the house are leaking, which mean that we need to start from the ground up. And then some parts are kind of standing, which mean that we're just going to be kind of patching. But what does that patching look like? So my job here today is to take us from dialogue to actual actionables. I've been sitting here and I've counted, we're a room of about 46. And I would kindly like us to gather to the front and to divide ourselves into tables of 5 with 9 people at each desk. Thank you so much. If we could kindly do that. Masingasukuman sonke, and join and come to the front and join a table. So at each table there are 9 people. So at the end of it, there should only be 5 tables. We have solutions to solve for, Bafaz. Yes, we are 46. It does. It really, really does. So we've got how many? We need a balance, ne? Gunga short. There shouldn't be 3 people at one table and then 7 people at another.
The two. Less.
Okay. But
You need one more.
Try. And then, the beautiful lady in red and our seventh floor participant, sixth floor participant. Are we able to come closer? Thank you so much.
Very good.
Thank you. So the second part of the conversations, ladies and colleagues, is for me the crux of the kind of work that I do. So my opening question to all of us here is, what economic conditions need to exist for women to safely say no to 1, violence, 2, exploitation, 3, dependency, and 4, coercion? We are not here to discuss whether the problem exists. We know this problem exists. That's why we are here. We've experienced it, some of us. In fact, statistically, 1 in 3 of us in this room have experienced or been victims of gender-based violence. We are here to commit to what we are going to do about it. Because it's all good that we come here and we dress up and we look pretty and we sit and we listen. But what are we actually doing? What are we taking home? The purpose of this section is for us to come up with these solutions. I'm going to give each table a theme to work around. And then these solutions will be taken and we're going to put them into a document, and then we're going to publish this document. And it's going to be a lived document of solutions, and we are going to put those solutions forward, not only as a Beijing platform, but also as AFWE and the rest of the stakeholders. All right. So I'm going to start with this table. Is it okay if I give you guys table number 1 now? So table number 1, number 2 with our lady in orange, table number 3 with our lady in burgundy and white, table number 4 with our lady in red, and table number 5 with I was going to say the lady with who's going to start the organization and with the PSM, or is it PML?
Yes,
that's the one.
Yes.
She's going to start the organization and she's going to save a lot of people. Yes, that's our table number 5.
Okay, maybe just as you're going with the instructions, I think if you can either nominate a scribe, or I know we said we are green, but please make sure you'll write what your question is, because like she said, we're documenting this. So whatever outcomes that you're discussing within your tables, we need you to document them. So if you can please have a scribe or someone that will be taking down the notes in your table, so nominate with the 1 or 2 people. So
yes,
that
we're going to spend 30 seconds just you guys nominating a scribe, and then also nominating somebody who's going to give us feedback. Thank you. Ten seconds left, ladies. Are we ready? Excellent. Okay, table 1. Hi, table 2.
The naughty table. The naughty table.
Table 2 of my
Table
most
number 2.
passionate, vociferous ladies. I love
Let's
you.
go.
We have started. Thank you so much. The question for table 1, the problem is, leaving violence is economically expensive. It requires housing. It requires transport, childcare, school fees, legal support, and food security of approximately 24 months of financial resilience. Now, so most women cannot access this or even afford to save, and then dependency keeps them in danger. So, what would it take to fund women's economic exit? These are the solutions that we're solving for in this country. What role can business play in creating employment pathways specifically for survivors? And what commitments can be made today? And I just want to pause here. When I say commitments, I'm not looking for clever things and like clever language and bombasticness and 10 things. It can literally be one commitment per table that is practical, that we can implement and is measurable and is also scalable. So what commitments can be made today to ensure safe exit, to ensure that safe exit is economically possible, not just legally permitted? Okay.
Table 1, you're good?
We got table 1? Okay. So the problem is leaving violence is economically expensive. Yeah? We've got housing, transport, school fees, legal, health, guning. Yeah? And for a woman to be able to leave an environment, she needs to have 24 months worth of money. So now, what would it take to fund a woman's economic exit in this country under our GNU economy? What role can business, South Africa, play in creating employment pathways, specifically for survivors? And what commitments can be made today to ensure safe exit is economically viable and possible, not just legally permitted? Excellent. Table 2, the most passionate. Are you ready? Okay. So our topic, our issue is centers around freedom capital, building economic resilience. Women are expected to build financial independence within systems or a house that barely allows survival. Economic participation without economic security produces fragility and not freedom. Without resilience reserves, dependency remains the only option. So without money, sisenjen, basically. So now, the commitment questions. This is what we're solving for. How do we build the structural conditions for women to accumulate this 24 months now? How do we do that? And what can employers commit to move beyond the salary? So each question, if you can notice, is moving from one to the next to the next. So now, what can employers commit to move beyond salary to genuine financial safety? And if you recall, in 2019, there was a thing called Shut Down JSE. And corporate South Africa made all these beautiful promises to fund the fight. But we are still waiting. So if the members of corporate SA in this room, we are really still waiting for you to fund the fight. And this then becomes part of fund the fight. What are you doing for your employers to ensure their safety? And the last question to my table is, how do we formally recognize and scale these resilience systems? These include or can include stokvels, because we grew up with stokvels and they're part of our heritage, burial societies, and collective savings schemes, because these are already existing. We must be careful not to always want to overhaul systems when we already have tangible ways that are functioning and existing. We need to learn to kind of build on them sometimes and improve them and make them better. All right. Are we good? Table 2? Excellent. Table 3, Our Lady in Burgundy and White. You guys have your Spocks and you have your Nopalo. Excellent. Okay, so here we are going to be talking about asset ownership and wealth accumulation. Many women earn income without accumulating assets, as Ambassador Ruby has told us also about her mother, and many of our mothers and our grandmothers, we know the story. It's not new. But many women earn income without accumulating assets, and therefore they are not capable of protecting themselves and their children during crisis. And the crisis can be storms, acts of God, and the husbands and the families. Participation, therefore, is not ownership, and we must be able to recognize that. Without owned assets, property, capital, equity, economic freedom then remains conditional and also removable. You can take it away from somebody because that person doesn't genuinely own it. Yabon? So now to Our Lady in Burgundy's table, the commitment questions are: what would it take to shift women from economic participants to economic owners in this current landscape of where we are? Yeah? Question 2, what structural barriers, legal, financial, and cultural, prevent women? Okay. What would it take to shift women, so from people who are just buying Siyahamba siyothenga igrosa, sibhadala ama-account. How do we become people who are paying accounts to people who own the Truett store, basically? Yes. Number 2, what structural barriers, legal, financial, and cultural, the way prevent women from accumulating assets? And who in this room has the power to remove those hindrances, those things that are preventative and stand in the way of us and these amazing assets that we deserve? Last question. What does long-term economic security for women actually require? And are we prepared and ready to build it? Or are we still in a phase where we are thinking about it? We are envisaging. Because this envisaging is taking a bit too long, I think. Women are dying. Are we ready? Right? Table 3? Excellent. Table 4 with our lady in red. Are you ready with your nobalos and your excellent? So in this, for this table, your topic that we are going to cover is the care economy and unpaid labor. The problem: women are simultaneously sustaining households and subsidizing the economy through unpaid care work. Fact. This invisible labor limits economic mobility, prevents asset accumulation, and keeps women economically dependent, which directly enables violence, and it generally causes like hip pains and back pains. It's a mess. It's a stress, you know? So now the commitment questions for your table. How do we make care work economically visible and structurally supported? And I say this because a lot of women also like to start NPOs and NGOs, and we all know that NPOs and NGOs are based on care work. And we go to funders and we go pitching. And the reality is that funders don't fund businesses that help people. Funders help businesses that make money. So we need to have this question, this statement in mind as we are answering the questions. Question number 2. What can employers commit to that recognizes and redistributes the care burden within the system and across the board? Question number 3. Repeat number 2. No problem. Okay. So what can employers commit to that recognizes and redistributes the care of burden? Okay. Question number 3. How do we design workplaces, policies, and communities that stop treating care as a private female responsibility so we can redistribute this care and this? Repeat again, the last one. Okay. How do we design workplaces, policies / imiteto, and communities that stop treating care as a private female only responsibility? Thank you. Are you table number 4, you good? Am I able to move on? Okay. And now I'm going to go to my last table with our leader that's going to help millions of young South African women and teenagers deal with their reproductive issues. So table number 6, we are going to discuss networks, capital, and access to opportunity. So here is the problem. Opportunity is socially circulated before it is economically distributed. Women without access to the right networks, capital, and information remain largely excluded from ownership ecosystems, not because of ability, but purely because of access and this imaginary red tape that is there. This exclusion is structural. It is not incidental. And I think we are all aware of that, and that is why we are here. So now, your questions, table number 6. Are you ready? Excellent. What specific capital, networks, or information can people in this room deliberately open to women who currently do not have access? And somebody spoke about this in the audience earlier on. Yes. Number 2, how do we move from mentorship, which advises, to sponsorship, which opens doors? And how do you also do that safely? Because not every sponsor, we need to be careful, not every sponsor, whether it's a man or a woman, is out there for your best interests. So how do you also, how are we able to then also do this ngendlela is safe, you know? Number 3, what would it take to give access to investor networks, procurement circles, and decision-making rooms? What do we think it takes?
This table, if there was prize, let me just put off the alarm. If there were prizes, this table here, on point. I think, how would you like to run it, Luthando?
I think I'd like each Spox from the tables to just come and then share their point, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one.
If your Spock is ready, she can come up, take a seat. There's mics on the chair. You may more than, if your Spock is ready, please do come up.
Yes.
Madam, you're closing. I'm giving you.
Thank you, ladies, for being so brave and coming up and joining us.
Yes.
Give the ladies a round of applause. Getting on any stage is never easy. Never easy.
I was like, you know what? Shem, let me do their thing.
Hi, Nafama. Is it Naki?
Can I give you 5 minutes? 8
You guys are table 1, ne?
highlights and sort of also because you're going to close it. So as well.
The 4 and 5. Table 4 and 5. Your spokespersons.
I'm saying in your.
Okay, and then table 5. Your spokesperson.
I'll give you 10 minutes.
Coming. Or then the spokesperson from there is okay.
Sure.
Are you ready, ladies? I'm gonna ask out. Yeah, so you got to please. Can our spokesperson from table 1 please kindly give us feedback? Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. So the first question that we got was that what would it take to fund the women's economic exit in South Africa? And our response is that we need to partner with NGOs, NPOs, and maybe create stokvels that support GBV survivors. The second point is that we need to prioritize female education, skills, and economic empowerment so that they're able to exit economically.
Okay, so also table 1, how can we as employers create pathways for these women to be able to exit within the 24-month time frame? So what we did say is that there needs to be a collaboration and a partnership with businesses to enable these women, for especially in a use case of a woman with children, to have the ability to bring their children to the workplace so that there's one less worry for the woman to worry about, to be able to come and do the work and still have access to their children, and also provide skills training programs to empower or enable the unemployed ladies to be able to do and produce products that they can be able to sell in partnership with mentorship programs that can be able to help them to scale up and grow. Okay.
And then the last one is about the commitment that can be made today to ensure a safe exit. We can partner with private and public companies that have CSI in their companies so that they contribute financially to these NPOs and NGOs. We'll also need to hold the government accountable as there's a GBV fund that is open out there, but then we need to know where the funds are so that these can be used to help these women in future. Thank you.
Thank you.
document. We need your document.
I was about to
If
say.
you have done a clear handwriting,
Yes.
more than welcome to hand it over. If not, you can also speak to Luthando afterwards and just see how we can get that information, your answers. We need your answers.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you. Let's give it up for Team 1. You can...
Woohoo! Very detailed. Okay, table 2. Yes, table 2.
Thanks, everyone. So our question is freedom capital, right? How do we build structural commitment? What can employers commit to beyond salary? And how do we formally recognize and scale from that perspective? And grateful for the ladies that we've actually built a bit of a system here. And we're saying it
Yes.
starts with policymakers, right? How do we drive change in South Africa? Real change. Taxman comes in and they incentivize. And so that is the one perspective. I'm going to build the narrative here. The second perspective is the abuser needs to fund the exit. And we are saying, we're naming this the GBV exit fund, right? So the mechanics behind this is that we say that at first instance, when he first slaps you, and it could be a he and a she, disclaimer, but when that first happens, you need to have the power to go to his employer and claim. And that employer needs to essentially deduct from his salary. The same way when you have debt, they can come and enforce a deduction from your salary. You deduct from his salary. That drives compliance from a male perspective, from an abuser perspective. I need to stop saying male. It drives compliance from an abuser perspective, and it makes sure they are in line. And also, because it comes from an employer, there's a reputational question mark. So they are also driven into compliance, because this then means that there's a potential for them losing their source of income. We need to drive compliance. It's not just about claiming, it is about changing behavior. So we need to have them fund our exit, and when you're able to claim from your first incident, you have the capital to move out immediately. You know, month end, I've got rental to move to an apartment. It's a percentage of his salary. You know that this means I can bring my children, I still have the clothing, and based on the impact or the extent of the abuse, you claim more. My counterparts have said, do not forget to talk about the pension funds. We're coming for that too. We're not waiting for the courts to make a claim. We're not waiting for the legal system to make a judgment. We claim from day one. We're not just claiming, we're driving change. And for us to drive behavioral change, we tap into your pockets. That said, we understand some of them do not make money. They're unemployed. What do we tap into? Some of them have businesses. That's a legal, personal. This is, oh, I'm embarrassed as a CA not remembering this. It's a jurisdictional person. There we go. I appreciate you. That is actually a person you can claim from them. They pay for taxes. If you're unemployed, we've said that 375 gets reallocated to the abused. We tap into their pockets. It's not about normalizing the abuse. It's about driving change. There's a system to it. We know what brings change. Legislative and policy makers need to enable and empower us as women. Thank you.
Come on!
Lovely. Table number 3.
My God. 3. We are 3.
Oh, you number 3? Yes. Table number 3.
They all stealing my point, hence I wanted to jump in. Cool. So I think for us, we tackled the 3 questions. I'm not going to... Do I need to repeat them? I don't need
you
to.
just need to give us answers.
So I'll give you answers.
Yes.
And I think the first response for us was education first around the issue of ownership, because a lot of people misunderstand what ownership really is, you know. And so for us, it starts with education first, and education first in our homes, because I think we agreed that a lot of times we want to create mass revolution and get a lot of people involved. But if we don't change in our homes, to say what does ownership look like in our homes, and and what should our children be striving for when we think ownership. And I think one of our people in the group shared a personal story around how ugokwake got the first property and how she then encouraged the rest of them to get property, but also understanding interest property until you paid off. I say I can even when you pay it off, because interest rates and rates, if you stop paying those, then it gets repossessed. So it's understanding what does productive assets look like, and how do I start owning those assets, and then using the system that we know, Sonke, and I think this past 2 days we've been speaking about it quite a lot, into Emma Stockfell, which is something that we really know. Instead of what Stockfell saying what December, nenyama, reinvest a portion of it to productive assets. So yes, share your amount and then news at December, but take a portion of it, even if it's 20%, 30% of what you saved out throughout the year, to then invest intentionally in productive assets that can compound and give you more returns. Isn't just you understand? But also the third point that we agreed is we spoke about the realities of that women face, you understand? And one of it is childcare. But for whatever reason, when we create such events, we do not include childcare in these events, or even creating spaces where intergenerational conversations can happen, whether it's ownership and stuff like that. So having our kids, I have two daughters, and for the longest time, now they don't want to come with me, but for the longest time I drag them in
everywhere.
And when people say, oh, you brought your kids, I'm like,
where else?
And now my kids have developed a language as well that we speak in the room, because they've been exposed to these conversations. So we need to be intentional to say, if we know that women want ownership and assets and stuff like that, but to go and have a conversation and understand these topics we're talking about, they might have a barrier of childcare. We must say, bring your child along, so that we can have these conversations. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I've got a co-speaker from my group. But like I said, the reason I wanted to speak much earlier is because I realized that people are having the same point as us. But I think it starts at many levels. So one of our questions was what can employers do to and commit to right now to create safe spaces for women? But I think it needs to start from way beyond that. I mean, I think there was a stats that was read by the lady from McKinsey, I think, that for us to even own, it will take up to 2090 or so. So that's just way too long. And I will say, in addition to bringing, so I'm freestyling as it stands, to bring my speaker on my right, who spoke about bringing her girl children into these conversations. I think it's actually, if you want to change the society, we're going to have to bring the boy children as well. Because we know from our generations, it's going to be very difficult to change the mindset of generation after generation. And what I often find is that we actually are worst persons. When they say be resilient, it's never the men that are saying that, it's us saying that you need to be resilient. But going back to our question as to what can be done right now, as soon as in yesterday, I'm glad that there was a lady from the Department of Health of Women and people with women and disability, but she's gone now. But I think it starts from the legislation, from the regulations. We do have tax breaks and CSI projects, but we're not sure where those actually go to. Us as employers, we have these things, but where do they actually go to? The same way we can say we need 50% ownership, black ownerships in companies, we can actually have measurables for each and every company that does pay tax to say, what are you doing to safeguard your women? So that's one thing that can be done. We have an example in our table where we find, a healthcare space. So we're expecting the woman who is either abused to come to work and run 7 shifts and leave her children at home. Instead of having a wellness program that speaks to a phone call away, let's have situations where we say within our places of our institutions, we actually built in doctors' quarters, staff quarters, when you are in distress, where today, if you got slept today, you can actually come and spend the next 6 months, for instance. And that still goes back to your tax breaks and all of that. So, because the issue that was raised, where is the budget going to come from? But if I don't have my employees in my office, there's no budget for anything else.
Exactly.
So we need to shift from the mindset that we are so replaceable, because absolutely we are not replaceable. For the productivity to happen, for the budgets to happen within the institutions that we work for, we need to be physically there and emotionally there.
Excellent.
So there are absolutely things that we can do today that will actually safeguard women, so that we have tax breaks, we have my space where a woman can bring her children. I know for the next week, I'm responsible for that woman. She can go take a child to work. That then safeguards her. Then it gives her space to then be linked to all these other situations and all the NPOs that are available or that we are going to create as we sit here, because we realize the problems are much bigger. And this space of being silent about it, because I don't even think we know the extent of the problem. We sort of have and if we had to regulate it and have measurables, then we will know what the extent of the problem is. Then we can know how much to allocate. Then we can actually demand that allocation. Why am I going to work every day, but I have no protection should something happen to me tomorrow?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure if anything I missed out from my team. Can I just hand over the mic, please?
Thank you so much. Can you please give a round of applause? And then our last table 5.
She actually wants to add. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, continue, please.
One of the things that one of the questions we got was, how do we make care work economically visible and structurally important? Measure it, fund it, pay it, professionalize it, and normalize it. When care is treated as an essential infrastructure rather than private responsibility, it becomes a driver of economic growth, major employment sector, a foundation of social stability. I think one of the issues that we face as Africans is our mentality, is that it is not easy to make change when the mind has not been changed. The problem is that we can give finances, we can give support, but how do you support a woman who has been mentally broken to come to a space now that you give her finances? How do you give a woman, you give her tools, yet you have not physically built her to use those tools? Because we speak to how we can pull women, we can help women, but are we able to change what they've grown up with? Yeah. When you grow up, you are told as a woman, you go to school, you are a wife. Everybody gets taught how to be a wife. Who teaches a man how to be a husband? Everybody, as women, we get taught that our places are in the kitchen, in the household. But who teaches a man that shared responsibility does not then deem your ego? So those are places that we then need to work with. We need to work within, because in order for you to have a society where we don't have to wait for 2093 to become women that are owners, we need to first restructure our mentality. And when we start from there, that's why we start with our young ones. We start with our children. We start with our sisters. We start with our siblings. We teach them the right ways so that when they are grown, they live with this, they become it. Because what you hear from a young age meant who you become as an adult. What you see, what you grow up around tend to make who you are as an individual. So these are places that we first need to start with, within ourselves, within our homes, within our communities. How do we then pull out women out of places and teach them that societal norms were built by men and by women that do not understand what it means to come from places that you come from? Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Please, that's written down, ne? Don't just smile. I saw the side eye. All right, to our table 5.
Good afternoon, ladies.
Can't hear you. Please give her.
Good afternoon, ladies. I'm Asanda. So I represent Group 5, and our topic was around networks and access to opportunity. So our first question was around how do we create a network for women who don't have access to networks. And our instinct was really around the women in this room are powerful, that we represent a multitude of industries, of capabilities, of thought processes and perspectives. So the change that we're speaking of really starts with us. It's to set up something simple like a WhatsApp group, for us to form our own forum where we can harness our collective wisdom and share, even if it's on an informal basis, weekly, monthly, to share, as a business person, I'm experiencing this challenge. As someone similar, have you experienced it? How did you navigate it? Can you connect me with? Because those are all small parts that lead to progress in each of our businesses and as individuals. So I think as much as we talk about capital, it's also important to think about what are the things that we need to change in the way that we think about our problems and the opportunities that we can get just by connecting with each other in the room. The next one was around mentorship. So the question there baffled us a little bit, Chairperson, from the perspective of, it said, mentorship is about guidance, and then how do we move it into sponsorship? Yes. Yeah. So there we said, if you think of mentorship as not including sponsorship, then you actually have a very limited view of what mentorship entails. That when we talk about mentorship, it needs to take a holistic growth path, starting from the perspective of what my colleague just said about the fact that you're dealing with people who even have mental concerns, traumas that they need to deal with and unpack, and that impede on their ability to be progressive in life. That the starting point is with that personal mastery. It's what can I connect you with that helps you unpack the real you, the authentic you, and unblock the things that are stopping you from becoming the best version of you. Then we move into technical skill set and capability and all that thing. And then once we have seen that there's a willingness to take this journey together, then we can talk about sponsorship and capital, etc. I think I'll pause there and hand over to Anna. Thanks.
Lovely. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Okay. I just want to add on a point, on the first point that Asanda mentioned, on what specific capital networks can people in this room, can people in this room open to women? Like we are saying, everyone in this room is a contact, right? And yes, as much as we set up WhatsApp groups, we arrange to meet online, and also if possible, we have informal meetings. It's also important for us to make sure that, we do research in particular areas. So say, for instance, someone wants to enter into the baking industry. We need to find out who's going to do research in that particular area, who are the stakeholders involved in that particular industry, where can we get cheaper products, for this particular person who wants to enter into that particular business. So research is very important because it really goes a long way and is also very effective. And then I think the last question, sorry, what was the last question?
We didn't actually get to the last question. We touched on it.
Yeah, we touched on the last question. So the last question was, what would it take to democratize access to investor networks, decision-making rooms, just basically making sure that women have access to these networks, to decision-making rooms. We said it's very important to ensure that during the mentorship stage, you provide as much information as possible to the person that you're mentoring. Who are the gatekeepers? Who are the stakeholders? All those important people need to be all that important information needs to be shared with the person who is being mentored. Also grooming. The person who you're mentoring, what aspects or what areas does the person who is mentoring needs to focus on? So the grooming becomes very important. And also training. Should the person that you are mentoring be enrolled in certain trainings so that, they are better at what they are doing? So, yeah, that's basically what Group 5 touched on this particular question. We didn't have enough time to really
Perfect.
delve deep into it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. We really, really appreciate these answers. I will be giving you guys my email address and also email address Kita if you guys don't have these notes clearly written. Would you like it now? Okay, so you can email me at Luthando, LUTHANDO KM @gmail.com. Alternatively, I think everyone has Sister Ndai and Sister Mkita's email address from the comms. Yes, alternatively, you can email one of the three of us, and then we'll connect everything. But if you guys do have your notes that are physical that I can take as well, I will be taking those, or if you want to rewrite them in email form as well. All right. And this is like not like an exercise, guys. We're actually going to produce these results and show them back to you so that a year from now when this happens again, you can look back and say a year ago we made these commitments, and a year after, where are we? Yeah, that's the only way we're actually going to measure the results and the impact that we're driving. All right. That's all from me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for all your brilliance, your brains, and your courage for the stage. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Let's give Luthando a round of applause. And in absentia, Ambassador Ruby Marks, who did join us. Luthando, thank you so much. Keep on doing the work that you're doing. We fully support you, and definitely more conversations. Thank you. Thank you. As we move swiftly along, I know everyone is edgy and they want to go home and they're looking at the time. Some have packed bags and ready. We see you. But I'm going to ask Zim to come up. She's going to give us some closing remarks and some information as well on some of the work that is currently being done. Thank you.
Okay, hello again. I understand we may do work after lunch, but I did say that you are here to work. And this is what Hey Economy was about. And just like Luthando is saying, please, 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 can we have those responses back? They are going to inform our next steps, and we are going to communicate. And because we have your email addresses, with your permissions, we will then share some correspondence with you. And we are going to, I think on the program it says, firstly in the program, I was supposed to talk about new faces, new voices, and AUFI, but I'm not gonna do that. I did mention earlier on, okay, kukonoti how? I'm given 5 minutes to wrap up the session. But AUFI, please follow us on Facebook. It is Africa, not African, Africa Women Financial Inclusion Initiative. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we do have a website up, and we are on Instagram as well. Not too active on X, but on Instagram we are AWFIZA, AWFIIZA. But I must say, if you really want to get a gist of what is the work that we do, it's there on LinkedIn. We always update what we're doing. And I did mention yesterday that we have a partnership with the Gracia Marshall Trust, running New Faces, New Voices South Africa, which is where we do the grassroots work, where we go and work with the women. 2 weeks ago, we were in Eastern Cape doing a follow-up session. We started with the women last year. And on Wednesday, we'll be in Bloemfontein, continuing what we had done with them last year. And we are going to go to Northwest again. But in July, we will be starting work in KZN. And like I mentioned yesterday, we would love for organizations to partner with us. We do the work, we don't have a lot of resources, but we do a lot with what we are given. And we want to partner with companies and organizations that are saying, we are mandated to do this, but we don't know where to start. Come partner with us. We thrive on partnerships and collaborations. That is our strength. And I just wanted to give something like a testimony of what enabled this work and the power of sponsorship. Hair economy existed before AUFI. Hair economy started in 2023. And it was a matter of me sending an email to Nicola saying, Nicola, you know what? This is now after me doing some research as to what is happening around women's financial inclusion in South Africa. And I wrote an email at night. I'm a night rider. If you work with me, please, if you receive an email at 1 o'clock, I don't expect you to answer to it. Please, you can answer it in the morning. But those are my hours where I really push work. Send an email, Nicola, I'm thinking of hosting a women's financial inclusion dialogue. And this is what I'm thinking of, topics. And I just gave, to my amazement, I wake up in the morning to like 9 or 10 emails that she had forwarded to her network. Investec, Standard Bank, all those people with money, resources. She said, hey, here's something. I think this would be good to partner. Would you want to partner? Now, this lady, I had just met her a few months back at a conference, and we exchanged numbers. Then Standard Bank and Investec were like, we are keen. And eventually Standard Bank hosted us. Didn't ask any questions, but just opened the door. And here we are today. And the story of this place. Met Amelia at another conference, sitting where I met Xoli in person. We were talking about menopause, inclusion in the workplace, and exchanged numbers with Amelia. And then last year, when we were thinking about hosting Hair Economy, and I was like, I just sent a WhatsApp at night, Amelia, sorry for reaching out to you this late, but I'm thinking of hosting Ilando, and can you host us? And then during the day, I get a message, sure, no problem, let's talk, would love to do that. And they gave us a venue last year. We used it upstairs. And here we are today. Open doors. My call to action is, yours cannot be on a big scale like this, but you surely can open a door for somewhere. Don't ask a lot of questions. If you know Uguti, actually I can connect you to Uban. I make an example about Nicola. Hey, that woman, we had a session about a few months, March. We were hosting some entrepreneurs. APH, we've got a partnership with APH. By the way, all those participants of Deal Room, next year they're going to participate, they're going to apply for grant funding from APH. So like, Nicola, we looking to host this. No, say, okay, sure. And then her network, then Satrix hosts us at that beautiful venue we're at. And then there was a JSE function. I was there and like, okay, Zim, tell me more about this event that you're hosting. She opened the door without even understanding what the event was about. I'm like, okay, Nicola, so this is what is going to be happening. I didn't even finish. She's like, okay, come. You must meet this person. This one is going to help you, Uban. Okay, come, meet this one. And then when she's introducing this, like, I'm going to share their contact, or I'm going to share their details. And when she shares, she will share a LinkedIn profile, email address, contact number. Can we be like that without expecting to be paid? Can we be like that without a formal coaching or mentoring, you know, those processes where I only open doors for my mentees and what. Come on. So my call to action today is please go open a door for someone and bring somebody along, you know. And I forgot what else I wanted to say, but for a brief moment, you saw almost the session that we did with Dr. Osam yesterday. I've got another company called DINB, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion and Belonging, which gave birth to this. That does work around diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace, but also focusing on the ISO certification. There's an ISO on diversity and inclusion, which is called ISO 30415. So now we have a partnership with Africa Institute of the Mind. We're going to be introducing mental health around because it's part of inclusion. One last thing I'm going to ask from you people is I've been doing something quietly. I'm writing a book, or I've done. Yeah, it's done. It's called Crowning Her with Power. Crowning Her with Power. So we will share more details as to when it's going to be out, and maybe we'll have another gathering. And in that gathering, I want to hear, who did you crown with power? You know, who did you crown with power? But yeah, besides all of that, thank you so much for being part of Hey Economy 2026. Work continues, it does not stop here. And please share those photos. Whatever you took here, tag us. We are going to share a link where you're going to get your professional photos. Oh, you sent me a QR code. Okay, sorry. You'll share, yeah. A QR code was shared to me. I missed it. I am so sorry. But we are going to share that with you. I had asked George to do it so that we can put it on the screen, but we will share. You can download. I had said, people, you must take pictures, you know, because when you go to this thing, you need professional photos. You don't have to pay for it, you know. Be opportunistic, ne? When you are at an event, you ask their professional photographer, can I have a professional portrait? You know, be ready, because when you do these things, you know, yeah. Next time, so that when somebody is asking you, do you have a professional headshot or what, you know, but ladies and our he for she that are here, Temi, thank you so much. Dr. Osam, George and team, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And fly the flag high for Hey Economy. Go make some noise on social media about the whole experience. Thank you so much. And yeah, if there are people from Liberty here, guys, in fact, as you walk out, if you see them, the people that were serving us, have you ever received such warmth? You know, they are amazing. They are amazing. Amelia is amazing. Her team is amazing. And I can't thank them enough. I'm feeling best speechless. I don't know where to start. But just be there to someone. You know? Play it forward. Play it forward. George, are we good? We okay, ne? I thought you were saying something. Okay, I declare. Oh, a group vote? Okay, I thought because we have vegan Ubuntu. Do you want? Okay, are you okay with the one Ebesitata no Ubuntu? The one in the morning, yeah. Hey, abantu tired. But ladies, I declare Hey Economy 2026 done and dusted. And thank you.
Thank you so much to our army team, Zikita. Thank you to everybody. Travel safe. Please don't forget to tag us. We'll see you at next year's Her Economy 2027. Please thank our team at the back, our volunteers that have helped us. Let's give them a round of applause. Let's give George and his team a round of applause for all the photos and videos that are coming up. Let's not forget our tech team in the corner for assisting us. Well done. Thank you, tech team. And goodbye and see you next year.